Welcome to T News 9 channel. Today, we're diving into chapter 21 of the 190 IQ killer, titled The Man Who Walks Behind You. Leaving the hidden room, Ethan Ramos and Liana stepped back into the eerie silence of the Glassman house. But for Ethan, the quiet was deafening. His mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. Kay's confession video wasn't recent. It was filmed years ago. This revelation was chilling. It meant Kay had been studying his targets, the liars, the manipulators, the fraudsters, long before his first public accident ever made headlines. It was a terrifying realization. Kay didn't just understand human weakness. He was a master of it, surpassing even the most seasoned profilers. He wasn't just a killer. He was a student of human depravity, a predator who knew his prey inside and out. They moved through the house, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. As they approached the front door, ready to leave this house of secrets behind, Ethan froze. He held up a hand, silencing the others. A sound, so faint it was almost imperceptible, reached his ears. Tick, dot dot, tick, dot dot, tick. It was a soft, rhythmic sound cutting through the dead quiet of the hallway. Instantly, Ramos was on high alert, his hand instinctively going to his weapon. He drew his gun, his voice a low growl. What now? Every shadow seemed to hold a threat, every creak of the old house a potential danger. The air crackled with anticipation. Ethan's eyes, sharp and analytical, darted around, methodically scanning their surroundings. He wasn't looking for a person, but for the source of that unnerving sound. His gaze traveled up the wall, along the intricate molding above the doorframe, and there it was. A small black metronome, its pendulum swinging with perfect, unnerving precision. Click, 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 attached to its base. A single white Lego brick gleamed under the dim light, a stark and playful contrast to the grim reality of their situation. It was Kay's signature, a calling card left just for them. Liana's voice was barely a whisper, filled with a mixture of confusion and fear. Why a metronome? Ethan didn't look at her. His eyes were still fixed on the swinging arm, his mind connecting the dots at lightning speed. It's Kay's way of telling us he knows our timing, he answered, his voice low and steady, belying the storm raging within him. Ramos, ever the pragmatist, frowned. He needed facts, not riddles. Meaning, Ethan finally tore his gaze from the metronome and stepped away from the door. He was here, Ethan said, the words hanging heavy in the air. Within the last 3 minutes, before the full weight of his statement could even sink in, the front door slammed shut behind them. It wasn't the wind, it was the distinct, solid sound of someone leaving. Someone who had been right there, watching them the entire time. Chapter 22 of the 190 IQ killer, titled The Father of Lies. The morning sun rises on what seems like a tragic accident. A former insurance investigator, Jonathan Glassman, is found dead in his garage. The official cause, carbon monoxide poisoning. The car engine was running. The door was shut tight. It screams textbook suicide. But for Detective Ethan Graves, something feels terribly wrong. When he arrives, the uniformed officers are already packing up, confident in their assessment. Detective Graves, one of them says, looks like a textbook case. Ethan brushes past him, his eyes fixed on the car. He spots it immediately, a faint, almost invisible scratch pattern around the ignition. It wasn't turned by its owner. It was forced. Someone else started that engine. Then, his gaze falls on the garage door remote. He picks it up, opens the back. The battery is gone. This was no suicide. It was a staged murder, meticulously planned. Just as the pieces click into place, his partner, Ramos, arrives on the scene. Let me guess, Ramos says, his voice heavy. Not an accident. Ethan doesn't need to answer. He just points toward a workbench against the wall. A single, solitary Lego brick sits there. Taped to the wall just above it is a chilling, handwritten message. He lied about a lie, about a lie. How many layers before truth's faxes? Signed, simply, K. The killer's signature mark. Ramos lets out a low whistle. He's killing the whole Glassman circle. But Ethan shakes his head, his mind already racing ahead. No, he corrects. He's not just killing people connected to a case. He's killing the very concept of fraud itself. Ethan's voice hardens as he connects another dot. And he's sending me a message. Ramos looks bewildered. What message? Ethan gestures towards the lifeless body in the car. Glassman, he was the investigator who wrote the fake report, the one that cleared the mother in that video we saw. Kay didn't kill him just for the fraud. He killed him because Glassman had started to believe his own lie. The realization sends a shiver down Ramos's spine. So what does that mean for us? What's next? Ethan stares intently at the cold concrete floor, lost in thought. His voice drops to a near whisper, filled with a grim certainty. It means the next target is someone who believes a lie so deeply, they don't even know it's a lie anymore. The killer isn't just punishing liars. He's hunting those who have become one with their deception. And for detectives Graves and Ramos, the clock is ticking to find them before Kay does. Chapter 23 of the 190 IQ Killer. And trust me, this one is a game changer. The chapter, titled The Interview, kicks off that very afternoon. Our man, Detective Ethan Graves, gets a call from an unknown number. He answers, ever the cautious detective, with a simple, Graves. On the other end, a young, shaky, but determined voice says, "My name is Daniel Cross, Liana's younger brother." Instantly, the tension spikes. Ethan immediately asks, "What happened?" Daniel's response is a hushed whisper, "I need to talk to you. Not at the station, somewhere quiet. It's about Kay and about my sister." Ethan exchanges a loaded glance with his partner, Ramos. This is big. He asks where Daniel is. Pier 29, warehouse by the water. That's all they need. Within minutes, Ethan and Ramos are at the scene. The warehouse is exactly what you'd expect, abandoned, eerie, with the wind howling through broken windows like a restless ghost. Then, a figure emerges from the shadows. It's Daniel, tall, pale, and visibly nervous, clutching a backpack like it's his lifeline. Ethan approaches him slowly, keeping his voice steady. "You said you know something." Daniel hesitates, his eyes darting around, before finally making a decision. He appends the backpack, and its contents spill onto the dusty floor. Blueprints, schematics, old case files, and photos of what looked like staged accidents. A whole network of insurance fraud schemes laid bare. Ramos, stunned, can only ask, "Where did you get these?" Daniel swallows hard, the sound echoing in the cavernous space. "From Liana." Ethan freezes. This changes everything. Daniel pushes on, his voice gaining a bit more strength. "My sister, she didn't tell you everything. She's been studying Kay for months, before the first murder, before you even knew his name." Ethan stiffens, his mind racing. "Why?" he demands. And here comes the bombshell. Daniel's voice cracks with emotion. "Because they knew each other." The silence that follows is deafening. Ramos, barely breathing, whispers, "What did you just say?" Daniel's hands are trembling now, unable to control his fear and grief. Kay and Liana met years ago. She analyzed his first accident case before he ever wore the mask. Ethan feels a chill run down his spine, his blood turning to ice. He has to be sure. "Are you telling me Liana knew who Kay was?" Daniel just nods, his expression one of complete misery. "Yes, before he became Kay, he was one of her patients." What an unbelievable twist. Liana not only knew Kay, but he was her patient. What does this mean for the investigation? What else was Liana hiding? With Chapter 24, the file she hid. Let's get right into the action. Ethan stormed back into the precinct, clutching a stack of documents. He slammed them onto Liana's desk, and the sound made her jump. She froze, her eyes fixed on the papers. "Where did you get those?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Ethan's gaze was like ice. "Your brother," he said flatly. Liana's face went pale. "Daniel, no, he shouldn't have." Before she could finish, Ethan stepped closer, cornering her against the desk. "You lied to me." Liana backed away, shaking her head. "I didn't lie. You didn't tell me the truth," Ethan snapped, his voice echoing in the tense room. "You evaluated Kay. You met him before he became the monster we're hunting now." Liana's hands clenched into fists at her sides. "It was confidential. I was his therapist. This was years ago, long before any of the murders." From across the room, Ramos cursed under his breath. "Jesus." Ethan's voice dropped to a dangerous low. "What did you see in him, Liana?" She hesitated, a battle raging in her eyes. Finally, she spoke. "I saw a man obsessed with patterns, not with violence, not with revenge. He talked about systems, about chains of events. He said a butterfly could cause a hurricane. The butterfly effect," Ethan whispered, the realization dawning on him. Liana nodded. He believed the world didn't need killers. It just needed adjustments. "He told me, chaos is predictable if you just push the right domino." Ethan stared at her, his disbelief turning to anger. "And you didn't think any of this was relevant?" Tears welled in Liana's eyes, finally spilling down her cheeks. "He wasn't violent back then. He didn't want to hurt anyone, I swear. He just wanted the world to make sense." Ethan leaned in, his voice barely a whisper but full of intensity. What was his name? Liana. The room fell silent. Then, her devastating answer came. I don't know. Ethan blinked, confused. What do you mean you don't know? Liana swallowed hard. He never gave me a real name. He always paid in cash. No ID, no records. The day after his last session, our clinic's entire system was hacked. His file was completely erased. Ramos muttered from his desk. He erased himself. Ethan turned away, a wave of fury and terror washing over him. Kay wasn't just playing a game with them in the present. He had been preparing for this very moment, for years. And Liana, she had been the first person to see the monster, long before he ever put on the mask.
Chapter 25, titled, The Room of Tall Mirrors. Grab your headphones and prepare for a pulse-pounding chapter. That night, Ethan received a final message. It was a video. The screen was black, but Kay's voice, calm and chilling, echoed through the speakers. Mad dog. You found the first truth, but not the important one. Suddenly, the black screen flickered to life, showing a live feed. The image was disorienting a room filled with tall, imposing mirrors. Each mirror was draped with a ghostly white sheet, hiding the reflections within. In the absolute center of this strange room sat a single chair. And bound to that chair, shaking with fear, was Liana Cross. She was alive. Ethan's heart stopped. He felt the air leave his lungs. Kay's voice returned, a haunting whisper over the scene. You've chased lies long enough. Now chase yourself. The camera in the video panned slowly, deliberately, across the room to one of the walls. Scrawled in what looked like red paint were 5 terrifying words. The next accident is yours. And just like that, the screen went dark, plunging Ethan back into silence. Beside him, Ramos whispered the horrible reality, his voice barely audible. He took Liana. Ethan clenched the phone in his hand, his knuckles white. The pressure was immense, and a spiderweb of cracks spread across the screen. When he finally spoke, his voice was a low growl, colder and more devoid of emotion than Kay's own mask. We end this tonight. Without another word, he holstered his weapon. He turned and started walking toward the city skyline, not like a detective on a case, but like a man marching toward his destiny, a man willing to die. Because he knew, deep in his soul, that this time the game wasn't about solving clever patterns or outsmarting a genius. This was about saving the one person left in the world who could still remember the man behind the monster, the one person who could understand who Kay used to be. Thank you for tuning in to T-News 9. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next thrilling chapter of the 190 IQ Killer. See you next time.